Hello and welcome to Module 1. How many times have I heard this in my journey with cryptocurrency? Unfortunately, in today's world, scams are everywhere. Real estate, finance, shares, commodities, art. It is what it is, okay? Unfortunately, in crypto, yes, there are some scams and rug pulls. However, it is full of very strong projects based on blockchain technology. They all have a purpose, and their purpose is bringing changing network effects into the modern world. And the cryptocurrency that is created by these projects is, in fact, to pay their way to their people on their journey. These cryptos can also be held as an investment or traded for income. Here is the turning point. For those of you who have not heard of BlackRock or Larry Fink, I suggest you go away and Google it. BlackRock is a behemoth global financial institution. It takes a very big man to publicly admit, and especially in the world of finance, that they were wrong. Larry Fink came out and said, I believe Bitcoin is legitimate, and then began the journey of creating the BlackRock ETFs, which is one of the largest ETFs in the world today. Then, recently, the passing of the Genius Act in America, which gave legislation clarity and validity to stablecoins and cryptocurrency. This is monumental because now the SEC actually has legislation that they can work to. Previous administrations did not, and it's been an absolute debacle. This is huge. Donald Trump has now signed this. It is now law. And as you can see here on the list of ownership of Bitcoin, you've got governments, the US government, the Chinese government, Binance, Coinbase, and a few others who are major players in this space. So whenever I hear people saying crypto is a scam, I always reply, if it's good enough for Larry Fink and it's good enough for the US government, why is it good enough for you? Crypto is for criminals. Criminal behavior. Now, cast your mind back. Let's go and look at Pablo Escobar, right? Cash and fiat currency has always been the preferred currency of criminals. Do you think he would have fast forwarded to today and gone, oh, I'm a criminal, I better start trading in crypto? No. Now, I'm going to raise your awareness with this article. It'll also be in the description below, the link, and you can read it for yourself. Just who are the real criminals? A lot of you are going to totally love this and agree. Most people are unaware that Westpac went to Austrac and said, guys, got a little bit of a problem. We're going to admit that we failed to report over 19.5 billion of international fund transfers. It's only about $11 billion. We didn't even report it to Austrac. Why? It was tracked down to illegal crime cartels. They just wanted the money and they just shut up. They also they'd failed to pass on information in relation to some of these funds and the sources of where they came from to other banks in the chain. So they intentionally deceived the international financial market. This is a kicker. How many people are so amazed that Westpac failed to keep records? That's right, a bank failing to keep records relating to the origin of these international fund transfers, and some of these suspicious transactions were also associated with possible child exploitation. Now, the figure that was finally settled on was quite small, 1.3 billion, because it was a 12 billion potential liability. Austrac did not go after them because they weren't aware. Westpac did this to close their liability down. And guess what? There has not been one criminal conviction, let alone one criminal charge against any CEO or senior directors of Westpac. So just who are the criminals? And they've agreed to pay that 1.3 billion in penalties. Unbelievable. Let's have a look at fiat currency versus Bitcoin. Here we can see the American dollar. I'm going to draw your attention to a very important event in 1910, the creation of the Federal Reserve. Now, most people are unaware of what or who the Federal Reserve are. They actually think it's some sort of government. No, it's a privately owned company that does not have to disclose the shareholders or who are involved. It also does not pay tax. The Federal Reserve is, in fact, controlled by the powerhouse families of banking, the Rothschilds, the JP Morgans, and like that. Then we saw that the American government stepped in and gave an order for everyone to surrender their gold because they didn't have enough gold to back the currency. Then you can see further down the track that as time's gone on, it's just gone down and down in value. The real kicker came in 1970 when Tricky Dicky, the best salesman in the world, the US president, convinced the American people and the world there was no longer a need to link the dollar to the gold they owned because, hey, the American dollar is strong by itself. It decoupled. Then the printing of money started. Then we had the financial crisis. And as you can see here, over 100 years, the value of a dollar has eroded hugely. Now, let's look at that famous movie. Fiat currency is going to steal your time, wealth, and energy, right? You have to make a choice. Do you want to participate in that system or the other system? In fact, you can participate in both. And then there's the happy people that go along. Bitcoin is too hard to learn. Yeah, I don't like learning. Let's trust the government. Okay. I don't know about you. Would you put your faith and trust in any government? Here we have the movement of price of Bitcoin since 2012. It's very self-explanatory. But let's put this into percentage terms. 12,914% growth in 13 years, compared to the American dollar, which has had minus 95% growth in 100 years, and they're still printing money. Here's a goodie, gold versus Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin has now moved on to about 120,000. At 109,000, most people did not realize that one Bitcoin, in fact, was worth as much as a kilo of gold. This is really fascinating. Alchemy. Physicists have just transformed lead into gold. So what is that going to do to the value of gold over time when a substitute metal can then step in as a counterfeit? What do you think is going to happen to the perception and value of gold? Here we have the comparison. In 2015, you needed 137 Bitcoin to have the same value as 1 kilo of gold. Fast forward to today, you only need 1 Bitcoin. So let's put some numbers to that shortly. In the meantime, look at silver. Bitcoin's market capitalization is now the same as the entire market capitalization of silver. Have a look at this. 137 Bitcoin in 2015 is now worth just over 16 million US dollars. Meanwhile, gold is worth 108,000. So what does that say to you? Are you a believer that Bitcoin is in fact digital gold? Are you also a believer that gold is also going to be the basis of money in the future? Here we have the evolutionary process. As Darwin says, it's not the strongest or the smartest that survive, it's those that evolve. Now, this here is pretty self-explanatory. As our monetary system is changing, as perception of wealth and millionaires and billionaires, let's go back to a very famous movie and look at Gordon Gekko's office. Here we see in 1987, this is what a millionaire's office looked like, downtown New York. What do you think in 2025 a millionaire's office in Bitcoin looks like today? It's probably some of your children's room. Let's blow this out to the macro. Let's see how big Bitcoin really is now. That's right, comparing to Apple, Alphabet, which is Google, NVIDIA, Meta, Amazon. Bitcoin is now paralleling the size of Amazon and Alphabet/Google. Won't be long, it'll be challenging the others. So let's look at the commercial reality. As mentioned before, Bitcoin has now surpassed Google. Look at this, moving forward. 158,000. Bitcoin is worth more than Apple. OMG. Then at 217,000, it flips NVIDIA. Wow. And over $1 million, it will then have the same market capitalization as gold. Bitcoin is known as hard money, the purest form of hard currency because it is limited in supply and you just can't keep printing counterfeit Bitcoin. This will change over time as the value of Bitcoin grows. Look at the British pound, 4.2 trillion. It's not going to take much. Maybe Bitcoin at $350,000, then it becomes worth more than the British pound. Then it's chasing the yen. As you can see here, it's almost a tenth of the gold market. At some stage in the future, the question is not if Bitcoin gets to $1 million, the question is when. And you will see that change where Bitcoin will be bigger than gold. Let's dive into crypto wealth. Some of you may or may not know of crypto billionaires. I think most people know about CZ. Had an amazing rise to fame, a bit of a glitch along the way, settled everything, paid a $4 billion fine, but he's still there at $74 billion. Of note, there's a gentleman here called Chris Larsen, and most people go, who is Chris Larsen? Chris Larsen has taken on and defeated the SEC twice, once in the global financial crisis, where he brought in peer-to-peer lending, and just recently as the CEO of XRP. He's up there with Michael Saylor. This is where it gets juicy, okay? Satoshi Nakamoto, an unknown, unidentifiable individual, is now chasing the top 10. Won't be long, bigger than Bill Gates. Can't wait for the day when he surpasses Warren Buffett, who famously said that Bitcoin and crypto is rat poison squared. If Elon's wealth remains consistent and we see a $300,000 Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, an unknown, unidentifiable individual in the world, will become the wealthiest person in the world on the Forbes whitelist. Let's look comparatively here, as you can see with all the different countries of where they're falling into line. Michael Saylor with strategy. He has moved up from 576,000 to now 623. He is chasing 1 million Bitcoin, will probably surpass Satoshi as he just keeps buying. Now, the reason why Michael is doing this is it's actually front running the American government because he has the ear of Donald Trump. He knows that when the Bitcoin strategic bill passes, the law will come in effect where America can never sell its Bitcoin and will start buying $500 million a week. Other governments will start buying. So when governments start buying Bitcoin and major corporations start buying Bitcoin, superannuation funds start buying Bitcoin, where do you think this price is going to go? Let's look on a global aspect. Top 20 countries. Now, here is some very interesting observations about the numbers. They don't have a huge range, 21, 22, 19, 18%. These countries are all consistently growing into mass adoption of cryptocurrency, where people are choosing to keep their wealth in cryptocurrency. Here is a commercial reality. No one, and not everyone, will ever own a Bitcoin. There's only 21 million. Now, a lot of people get put off. I remember when I first bought Bitcoin at $8,500 at the time, people went WTF. However, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. And as the price goes up, please do not self-exclude. And what I mean is I've seen it going up to 40s, 60s, 80s, 100, 120. Please ensure you buy along the way. And you don't have to buy a Bitcoin. Many people are floundering at the moment. I'm not going to spend over $100,000. Could you imagine someone going and mortgaging the family home, $300,000 to buy 3 Bitcoin? Somehow, I don't think that's going to happen. However, this can happen. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin because it's broken down into Satoshis. You can buy a bit of a Bitcoin, bit like investing in property, brick at a time. You can actually buy on dollar value. And remember, when you buy it, you can also sell it. You're not stuck in it. It's not illiquid like real estate or a big bar of gold. And most importantly, along this journey, as the value grows, you can use this as security for loans and finance. So this wraps up Module 1. I hope you found this informative, and I look forward to seeing you in the next module.